Hi everyone, welcome to LLK number 28, Knit with Laura and Lola. I'm Laura Nelkin, I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and I'm joined by my alter ego Lola. Lola is super fun, sometimes a tiny bit inappropriate, and I let her out every now and again to make sure that you guys are having a good time while you watch these. I'm shooting this from my new studio. I think this is the second or third log I've shot from up here, and we are just getting the hang of this new space together. It's quite fun. I'm knitting on a little something I'll tell you about during this log, and I have a whole list of things to share with you. I didn't think I had anything to tell you about in a log this week, and I was clearly wrong once I started kind of taking notes and thinking about all the things I could share. So the first most important thing is in the last log, we discussed how I say a lot when I'm doing logs, and I'm working on saying less. So we'll see how I do with that today. I have no idea. If you guys want to make every time I say you drink, that is your choice. I will not be joining you in that because otherwise I will be slurring by the end of this, which would be completely inappropriate and maybe not that much fun to watch. I did notice when I was reading the comments on the last log, because I do read all of them, I noticed that someone said that they used to say you know a lot, and one of their professors or their dad got them out of saying you know. And I used to say you know all the time, and every time I said you know, my mom would say, "No, Laura, I don't know. Could you please tell me?" Like that, like annoyed with me. And then I'd be like, "Oh, Mom." And I stopped saying you know. So maybe we'll come up with something for I do have a buzzer underneath my right hip that gives me a little zap every time I say it. So if you see me go like that, that's me knowing I shouldn't say so much. So drinking game is up to you, not joining in. Next, I want to thank you for all of the birthday well wishes and goodies, and particularly in my Ravelry group. The most sweet thread was started where Justine Lark, who's one of my Ravelry moderators, asked some kind of like prompts or questions. And so many of you commented with the most lovely birthday wishes and just like how you met me and which of my designs were introduced to by you, or like what your favorites were. And there were so many great travel stories. I know Kelly posted one where she had photos of traveling with me and meeting friends all over around the world that she knew through our Ravelry group together and just kind of knitting together over the years. And I cried a few times reading those posts, and I'm gonna save that thread to always go back to if I'm having a hard day. I know reading that will lift me right back up. So thank you so much. It was very special to have that on that day. I have to say that the last log I shot, I talked to you guys about not being sure when I was gonna get my vaccine. And then 2 days before my birthday, actually when the log dropped, I found out that I was able to get the vaccine because New York switched to 50 and older. And I was able to get my husband and we just like sneaked into our local pharmacy and found 2 spots. So I got my vaccine on my birthday, which was exciting. That was the first one. The second one's at the end of April, and we're going to be careful to give ourselves a few days off just to, in case we have any side effects, just kind of nurture ourselves a little bit. I'll make some chicken soup ahead of time, and we'll read books and watch stuff and just take it easy. It'll be a little staycation, which frankly, we've had a staycation for a year now. I could use with a go-cation, but I'm gonna go with the staycation for that. Other birthday tidbits, I had some birthday Zoom parties that were fun. My girl came home, which was an absolute blast, and we hugged each other and kissed each other and cooked together and watched movies. We played our favorite game, Dutch Blitz, which I've told you guys about before, but I'll put a link below to Dutch Blitz if you need a new card game for family. I would say kids like 8, 9 up. It's a very fast, fun card game. You have to make sure drinks aren't around, or we do anyway when we're playing it, because things can go flying as we get excited. It's fast and furious. So we played that a lot. My friend Debbie stopped by and she gave me the most amazing burn in a fern. I hope you guys can see that. It's a Bernie who's dressed like a gnome, because you guys know I have a little gnome thing going on lately. And he's sitting with his mittens in my fern. This is an asparagus fern. I also went plant shopping with Bella on my birthday after she went to the dentist. It was an exciting day. I can't even tell you. And we got some great new plants. So I was thinking it would be fun in these logs, since I've gotten really into plants in the last year or two, that every log I'll kind of show you one of my babies, one of the ones that I can carry up here anyway. So this is an asparagus fern that I got as a tiny little baby in the I think like in August, and it's doing very well, and the perfect home for my burn in a fern, I've got to say. Thank you, Debbie. The other phenomenal birthday present, I think this might be, I don't want to throw any other presents anybody's ever gifted me under the bus, because I'm appreciative. I love gifting, and I also love getting presents. My friends from Baltimore, who we've known since, for it feels like forever, sent me my dog Noche on a pillow. And for those of, I love Noche so much. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you know I had a standard poodle Noche she was with us for 13, almost 14 years, and she passed away almost 2 years ago now. And I still miss her, and I'm not getting another dog, but now I really don't need another dog because I have a Noche pillow. And in fact, I think the funniest thing about the Noche pillow is after we got it, I put it on the couch, and Zweeble, our cat, was inside for a little while. And I put Noche next to Zweeble on the couch, and Zweeble bit Noche's face, which is how they used to play together when Noche was alive. And it was very funny. And then I got a great picture of them kind of sitting together. So this is my Noche pillow. I adore it. It's also incredibly creepy, and I try to keep it so I don't it doesn't catch my eye when I walk into a room, because that would be potentially a tiny bit freaky, and I might think she came back from the dead there. Aw, Noche. She's the best. Other things that happened on one of my birthday Zooms, I had never heard of Sally OMalley from Saturday Night Live. Many of you might know who Sally OMalley is. She wore this amazing red jumpsuit, and she used to say, "I like to kick, stretch, I'm 50. And I just did that for you. And she would also pull her pants up really high, so she had a lovely little crotch thing happening down there with her pants. Not totally appropriate. So I watched a lot of Sally OMalley videos this week because I had never heard of her, and I feel like I really missed an opportunity to be on a log with a red jumpsuit, being Sally OMalley. My friend Kate was like, "She's kind of your spirit animal. I can't believe you didn't know her." So I'll give you guys a link below, but check those out if you haven't seen them. And one of my friends was like, "How did you not know who Sally OMalley is?" And I went and looked at the dates that she was on Saturday Night Live that she was performing. And that was the late 90s and early 2000s. And in the 90s, I was going to college, and then we lived quite rurally. I didn't really watch TV in college. I was deep into my creative work, and I listened to audiobooks on tape while I wove. And then once we hit the early 2000s, we lived way out of town, and we had a VCR and a DVD player, but we did not have TV. And the internet you couldn't really stream stuff easily on the internet then. So it's I missed a little window of TV. I know I've not really seen Beverly Hills 90210. I think I'm going to be okay not seeing that, but I'm kind of wondering what other gems there are out there that I completely missed from taking time off. I mean, I ended up getting all of The Sopranos on DVD and watching all of those. I did that with Sex and the City, those things that were out then. But I'm sure there's other stuff that I've missed, and I still feel like I'm a well-resolved adult, even not having known about Sally OMalley all of these years. But I also feel like I found a long-lost friend. Which is pretty silly. I said, instead of other things. I told you about my vaccine, which is exciting. I also want to tell you about what's on the set, because I find I always get comments below, and I tend to forget. So on Goldie over here, Goldie will be in logs a lot. Goldie is wearing another version of Contexta. In the last log, Goldie was wearing the Afghan of Contexta that I'm giving away at the end of the Knit for Food knit along. And Goldie is wearing the shawl version of Contexta. So it's kind of a long rectangular wrap that's made up of octagons and mitered squares. And what's different about this one is it's all monochrome. It's all the same color. So you really just see the texture of the stitches and don't have that color play like we did in the Afghan that I showed last time. So I thought it would be fun to kind of show both of those. In terms of what I'm wearing, because I think sometimes you want to know that. I said it. I am wearing Novel Long, which is knit out of Carol Feller's Nua. I have worn this sweater for quite a few years now. I wear it around the house a lot. It's a little bit pilly. It is well loved. It's just one of my favorite sweaters. This yarn is so soft I can wear it without a shirt underneath it, and I'm quite comfortable. And then over the top, I am wearing a woven scarf that I wore in the Abaclit photos that were taken last fall. And I was going to give this scarf away as a present to my husband's aunt. And I bought it when I was in Scotland in Knock-and-Do. And I never ended up giving it to her because the last time we saw her, I gave her something that I knit. And it seemed weird to give her two scarves. And then I decided that I absolutely love it. I love how bright and fun it is. And I love the play of the gray and the gold on each other. And I love the two sides of it. So Knock-and-Do is a tiny little mill that is in Scotland. I believe we went there on our way to Inverness. And I'll give you guys a link to them below. They do have a mill shop. They have gorgeous pieces. It is a mill that is built in the old style. So I think they got a big grant to rebuild it in like, I don't want to say like the historically preserved on some level. I don't believe it's run by their water wheel anymore, but their work is really gorgeous. And now I'm so happy I bought it and kept it for myself because I deserve a little scarf in my life, I think. Ooh, zap. You guys take a drink right there? I hope you did. Moving on. What I'm knitting. So I'll tell you about what I'm knitting in this exact moment in a second, or I'm more like holding it instead of knitting it. I've realized with these logs that my hands really need to have knitting in them. I'm much more comfortable if I at least have knitting in my hands while I'm talking to you guys. The next Lola's Choice kit. So Lola's Choice is my small knitted kit club. That kit is, the design is all done. The postcards are at the printer. The testers are testing. My sample is done. Photography is almost done. And the best news about that kit is I ordered big this time because it's freaking awesome. And I finally have help in the studio again. So you guys know that for the last year, for the pandemic, Max and I have been building all of the kits, and we've been building in the evening, and then we've been having a good time. We've also been arguing about maybe the fastest shipping methods or workflow, and both having our own ways of doing things. And it's been really fun, but it's also kept me from doing other things. If I'm stuck in the studio building kits, it keeps me from, I don't get to knit as much, I don't get to design as much. So I finally have found teenage help again. Teenagers are my absolute favorite help in the studio, because if you find like a 16 to 18-year-old, they are wanting to make money, they're wanting to buy cars, their parents aren't giving them money anymore, they're super psyched to work, and I really love hanging out with teenagers. So my friends who live locally, I realized that their oldest was like just the right age, and I messaged them a few weeks ago to be like, hey, does Willow need a job? And Willow needed a job. So Willow's got a job. She's very fun to hang out with. She's working in the studio, so I've got somebody winding yarn and measuring beads, and it means I'm going to be able to keep things in stock a little better in the Etsy shop because I have some help down there helping me instead of doing it all myself. And that, it's a weight off my shoulders. And Willow has 3 younger siblings. So I call that fresh meat, right? I'm covered for a while here. Very excited about that. One of the things that Willow just helped me build are new Bottoms Up kits. So Bottoms Up was a Lola's Choice kit last September. And I believe in January, I got a bunch of kits into the shop, and you guys bought them out in a weekend. And I've done a full restock on them. So there's all 5 colors are in stock. Bottoms Up is a toe up sock with a brioche toe and brioche heel and cuff. There's also a simpler version. They are worked with 2 skeins of yarn. There's a mini skein of hand-dyed yarn by Mitchell's Creations. And then there is a half skein of yarn by Leading Men Fiber Arts. There is a beaded bind off. It's a fun kit. There's also about a 40 or 50 minute video tutorial for how to knit those socks if you've never knit toe-up socks before, or you want to have something to follow along while you read the directions. You guys know that I've been really supporting patterns really well lately because I want you to have success knitting things so you come back and knit more with me, right? That is the goal there. So yay Willow. And first quarter knit along, you know I extended it to April 15th. The final prize, if you finish a Fab 4, is a kit for my mystery knit along, which will be releasing on April 15th. So the next time you see one of these videos, it will be for the mystery knit along. And I am super excited to be doing one of those with you again. It's been quite a while and we're ready for it. Next up, you guys remember in the last log, I bought the wrong yarn for Max's sweater. I bought Nocturne from Spin Cycle, and I thought I was buying Dream State, but this was a sport weight yarn, and I thought I was buying a worsted weight yarn. So at the end of this log, I'll announce the winner, who's getting 1 skein. And then you guys all gave me great ideas for what I should cast on, and I ended up deciding to cast on a hat because I haven't designed a hat in a while, and I wore hats all winter, and I'm kind of ready for a new hat. And I thought I would show you all the yarns I went through. I decided to do a brioche hat, and I wanted to do a brioche hat that was in the style of artichoke French because I loved wearing this hat this summer, or this winter, and also kind of mashing that up with brioche shapka, which is another hat that I designed, which has a brioche cuff. So I'm doing a hat that has a brioche cuff that then is going to turn. So it's worked from here, and I'll work the brioche this way, and then I'll work the hat up to the top and decrease it down. So it's kind of taking brioche shapka, which is worked from the bottom up, and artichoke French, which is worked from the top down, and putting those together and doing a hat. And I had to choose a second yarn to match this yarn, and I was determined to do that from stash because I have a big stash and it makes sense to find something in stash. And I found 4 possible contenders of yarn in my stash that I could use. I found Jill Draper Make Stuff Ansel, which is 100% US merino. It's the fiber is from the US. It is milled in the US. It is dyed in the US. It's just all US. You guys know I love Jill's yarns. This yarn is from CC's Wool. It's called Local Gems. I believe it is a Finn blend. And I used it for 2 different cowls in October, and I had a few extra skeins of that. So that was in a contender. And then a final contender was from Green Mountain Spinnery. This is Spinnery Sock Art Forest, which is a sock weight, but it's like a worsted weight sock weight. And I thought that it would potentially do well with it as well. I ended up going with Ansel in a purple color because what I started doing was holding all of the skeins together with the Nocturne and looking at them. These had a really nice high contrast to them, and I liked that, but it was almost too high contrast. Although now that I'm looking at them again, I'm wondering if I should do another version like that. And then when I looked at this yarn from CC's, I like them together, but when I took a picture, like a black and white photo, they were actually too close together in the same value, which meant I knew that the brioche stitches were going to get lost. And there's also something kind of obvious about putting blue and green next to each other because they're close together on the color wheel. And I didn't think, you want your colors to kind of pop when you're doing brioche so that the stitches show. And then finally, when I looked at Ansel, I could have gone with the gray, but I had a really similar thing that these were too close together in value, although they were different in color. And then I realized that I had this awesome purple, this amethyst from Jill that was really beautiful. And in value, when I took a picture of them, they were different. So I took a picture and I desaturated it, which is something you can do easily with your phone. And they were very obviously, this one was much darker than the green. And the other thing about choosing these two together is they're across from each other on the color wheel, so they popped really beautifully together. And you guys can't really see what's happening on my needles just with this little bit right here, but you can see that there is a contrast between the stitches, and I'm really happy with what's happening. But I want to show you where I got the brioche stitch from that I'm going to be using in this. And this is a sweater that you haven't seen yet, that is clearly not much of a sweater quite yet. And this is knit in Jill Draper Make Stuff Ellsworth, which is her new lace weight yarn. It's a lace weight yarn that comes on cones. I used it for Mythica in November, and I'm holding it double. So the gray strand is 2 strands of the darkest color held together. And then this other strand is actually 1 strand of the orange and 1 strand of the fuchsia held together. Those are not Jill's names. Jill's names are much more creative than I just gave you. I just can't remember her names right now. But do you see that this brioche stitch that's happening right here? This is the brioche stitch that I'm going to be using on the cuff of the hat. So it's really nice. It makes this really lovely rope, and I think it's going to be really pretty at the top of the hat. And what this is, just so you guys can see it, I don't know when I'm going to get back to it. It is a cropped Tosca that's all in brioche, and it's basically a little bit insane because I'm using 4 strands of lace weight yarn, and it's a full-on brioche sweater, and I'm not sure who else is going to knit it besides me. So I'm not sure that this one's gonna end up getting released. I think it's one I'm gonna end up picking up and putting down and knitting for myself and then showing you. And I do that sometimes. If I don't think a pattern is going to be worth the time and energy it takes to take it from knit sample to finished pattern that you can knit and is gonna look great on you too, I just won't do it. I don't know if any of you saw, some of you might have seen Hunter Hammerson, who is a designer, did an awesome Twitter thread last week or the week before that was about the real cost of designing a pattern, like how much goes into designing a pattern from concept to your guys' needles. And it's if that's the kind of thing that's interesting to you, I'll try to remember to put a link to it below. It's a really good snapshot of how much it actually costs. So I'm careful when I have an idea to make sure that that idea makes sense to take all the way to publish patterns. Sometimes I just end up knitting it for me, and that's fun because I love to knit, love knitting, and I'm pretty sure you guys do too. I'm gonna look at my notes because I just went on a really big tangent. Lola took me on the design curve and I gotta come back again. Oh, the next thing's very exciting. I can't believe I was like, I don't know what to talk about next. This is what I want to talk about next. Knit for food. Amazing. I think I said amazing exactly like that in the last log. So Knit for Food is a 12-hour knitting marathon. This is the first year of Knit for Food. It is happening on April 11th, which is next Sunday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We are going to be knitting together and raising money for food insecurity and hunger in the U.S. The money that we're raising is getting split equally between 4 organizations. You can read more about it below for those of you who've heard my spiel. I don't want to bore you by continuing on with the same thing. But as of right now, and this is a few days before this is going to go live, we're already over $160,000 raised, which blows me away. I mean, really, at first I was like, we'll raise 20,000. Then I was like, maybe 50,000. Then I was like, 100,000. Who would have thunk that would happen? And now, I don't know, the sky is the limit. Knitters are amazing. I'm so excited to knit with everybody on Sunday. The reality is I've set up about 9 hours of Zoom programming. That schedule is launched. The link below is there. I probably am not going to end up knitting for 12 hours. I'm going to end up Zoom moderating for a lot of that 12 hours and then knitting while the speakers are speaking, and I'm not keeping an eye on things. We are trying to get it to also stream to YouTube, and I think I learned how to do that with my friend Patty Lyons' help the other day. And it'll be streaming to YouTube so people can watch it who aren't part of the Zoom. And hopefully it's going to inspire people to donate more during the day, knit along with us, and if we choose to do it again next year, be even bigger next year. So much has gone into the planning and work for this that it would just be great to see it become an annual thing, but I don't want to make any promises till I make it till Monday morning and make sure that I'm still intact, right? Body and soul intact after that. But thank you so much. It means so much to me. I'm like holding my mug with my tea. And I also got a t-shirt that says Knit for Food, and I had to send it. I didn't have to send it back, but I had to message them because it came and they printed the printing wrong on the t-shirt, so that the this knitting needle right here ended up right centered on my left boob in a way that was like not happening. And also the print was so low that nobody would be able to see it while I was on Zoom. It was completely not okay. So hopefully the other one will be here in time. I tried to get them to expedite the shipping for me, but we'll see how that goes. So that's Knit for Food. I'm thrilled about it. Thank you guys. Next, teaching. So I'm teaching a few times in the coming months. I'm teaching this coming up weekend for Knit City, Montreal. I'm teaching 2 classes. I'm teaching these bottoms up. And then I am also teaching my favorite Shetland lace class. Those of you who've taken that Shetland lace class with me, it's a little bit mind-blowing. It is very fun. It's inspiring. And I think it will make those of you who take it stronger lace knitters. And then I'm teaching at the Web Spring Retreat, which is at the end of May. And that's already sold out. I think it's sold out like an hour after they launched it. And then I do not believe I'm teaching again until August online and potentially in person at the Pittsburgh Creative Arts Festival, if that happens. So I signed a contract and we are hoping that given COVID, if things keep trending, I don't want to say keep trending because I know that we're having a spike right now and there's just no saying. So that contract was written so that if they're not comfortable or I'm not comfortable, we're okay and we'll just push it out to next year. But it's possible that there could be an in-person event in August. And then I've got a few things in September. So my thought is people aren't going to want to be on their computers quite as much learning in the summertime. Maybe I'll be doing things, but just not also teaching online in the summer because I don't want to be on my computer all summer. None of us do, right? You can take me outside when you're watching me on a log. So that's teaching for now. Next, we're trying something new. This is a segment. This was my honey's idea. He was like, let's do a state of the fall segment every log, because you all know that I live in Trumansburg, New York, and in Trumansburg, there's a waterfall called Taganic Falls that is the highest free-falling waterfall east of the Mississippi. It does not have the volume that Niagara Falls has. In fact, sometimes in the summer when we're having a drought, it has like this tiny little sad trickle up at the top, but it is quite impressive. It's known as the Gentle Giant, and I hike there multiple times a week. So I always have my phone with me and I'm always kind of taking video and posting photos. So I'm starting to try to take videos so we can just show you bits of Taganic every time I do a log. And I think what'll be fun is to watch the shift of Taganic throughout the seasons, right? If you get to see it on this really regular basis, once or twice a month, it's really fun to see the greening. Like right now, you could see in this video, not so green, and it's gonna green right up and then it's gonna change in the autumn. It's absolutely stunning. There's also one spot I typically almost always take a picture at that is on the rim trail that goes all the way around the falls that looks back down at Cayuga Lake. And you can see that right now is not green at all. And it's so fun to just kind of watch the pop as everything awakens for spring. So you'll get to see that with me, which I'm excited to share Taganic with you. It's my favorite place. It's home for me for sure. In terms of like reading and watching, I always share that with you. I finished the fourth book in the Bridgerton series. Justine, you were totally right. It was great. I'm really glad I'm continuing on with Bridgerton. What I'm doing with Bridgerton is reading one and then reading one or two other things and coming back to it and just kind of milking it, because they've become these really familiar, friendly characters, and it's fun to read at night, and I want to make it last. I don't want to like devour the whole series and have it be done. So Bridgerton number 4, absolutely loved it. Last night, I started Detransition Baby by, and I'm just looking down so I get her name right, by Torrey Peters. And I'm enjoying it. I'll put a link below so you guys could read more about it. I'm just into the very beginning of it, but the premise is interesting. And I have a few friends that have transitioned, and I think reading literature that or this, this is fiction, reading fiction that uses language that I'm not used to using and emotions that I'm not used to experiencing, I think it'll help me understand what they're going through a little more deeply and be a supportive friend, which is important to me. In terms of watching, when Bella was home, we had a hard time thinking of what to watch. You know how that happens sometimes, where you're like super excited to watch something with somebody and then you're like, I don't even know what to watch, can't think of anything. And so I Googled like best movies to watch, as one does, and a link came up to Marie Claire, which I'm totally putting below. That's like 100 movies you should watch before you die. And we ended up kind of scrolling through. We'd certainly seen a bunch of them, but SlumDog Millionare came up, and Bella had not seen that because she was way too young when that came out. And we watched that together, and I forgot what a sad and beautiful movie that is. And also what a really interesting method of storytelling it had. So if you haven't seen that movie in a while, like if you saw it when it came out and then you haven't, I just realized I was holding my mug like very tightly, like I don't even know what that was. If you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a long time, I would suggest it as a rewatch at some point. And we were both riveted and completely into it. I did read through that list, and I came up with a few other movies that I want to watch that were on there. One is called The Farewell. It's set in China, and that looked very intriguing. I've never seen Black Panther, which I'm like a little embarrassed to say I've never seen Black Panther. So I know I want to watch Black Panther. I haven't seen Y Tu Mama Tambien, which I saw years ago in the movie theater, and I know that I want to see that movie again. It's set in Mexico. And also one that I hadn't heard of before called Promising Young Woman, that I believe came out last year, that also looked very intriguing. So I'm excited. I have like a bunch of movies lined up to knit to. And then I did have Stars for a week for free. So I watched Vita, which I had watched the first 2 seasons and very much enjoyed them. And I watched the 3rd season of that. And that was, I like Vita. Gotta say that. I almost watched Men in Kilts, but my free subscription expired and I didn't feel like paying at the time. So I did not watch Men in Kilts, but if any of you have watched Men in Kilts, I think it's one of the guys from Outlanders, and they wear kilts and ride motorcycles and go around Scotland and like visit different places in Scotland. If anybody's seen that, if you think I should see it, I will pay for Stars and watch me some Men in Kilts. Or Lola will watch herself some Men in Kilts while I knit and take notes on my pattern. The other movie I'm dying to see, and so I got a little frustrated on my birthday because I had heard about this movie, Truffle Hunters, on NPR, and it just came out in movie theaters, and it's a documentary about these old guys and their dogs who hunt for truffles in the mountains in Italy. And it's supposed to be really good. And it kind of, I think it looks at like the culinary use of truffles and then the people who search for truffles and kind of the dichotomy of their lives. And I couldn't find it anywhere to watch. And it was kind of funny because I've gotten so used to just like this on demand. I was prepared to pay $25 to watch Truffle Hunters on my birthday. And I couldn't because it's literally only in select movie theaters. So if any of you know of when I can watch Truffle Hunters, I really want to watch Truffle Hunters. And if I do get to watch it, I'll tell you how it is, because I'm not sure I could even potentially meet the hype that I have for Truffle Hunters right now. Like, I want to have truffle popcorn, and I want to have truffle salt on some eggs, and I want to watch Truffle Hunters. Very fancy. That's a good segue into eating. I always tell you guys what we've been cooking and what we've been eating. On my birthday, when Bella was home, she makes a mean shakshuka. Shakshuka is an Israeli dish that is made with eggs that are basically baked into tomato sauce. And there are many, many different variations of it. She made us one that the sauce was chock full of veggies, and then it was a tiny bit spicy and interesting. And she cooked the veg in right there. And then we sprinkled some feta on top and like a few other toppings, and it's really yummy. And we had it with some focaccia I made. And if you've never made shakshuka, it's a really fun, fast, and affordable meal it's pretty easy to be like, I don't know what's for dinner, and then make shakshuka and feel like you made something that's pretty substantial and satisfying. So I would suggest shakshuka. And then the other day I was dealing with my sourdough baby like I do every other week, and I have a lot of sourdough discard, and I didn't feel like making the same crackers. I always make the same crackers from King Arthur, and they're really buttery and a little rich. And my friend had told me that she makes these pizza crackers, so I just Googled pizza cracker, and I found this sourdough discard recipe for pizza crackers that uses olive oil instead of butter, and it uses all the seasonings you would put into pizza, like oregano and basil and hot pepper and a bunch of salt. And it uses a lot of sourdough starter, like 250 grams, so I was able to get rid of a lot of discard that I had lying around. And the crackers were really good. In retrospect, I wish I had spent a little more time rolling the dough out, because they ended up being a little bit thick and they could have been a little thinner. I also saw from that blog post, and I'll link it below, that there's something called a cracker cutter that you can get. It's like a roller that scores your dough, so you don't have to cut your dough. Like I just normally cut my dough and then I separate all the pieces out. And then I put fork holes in every single cracker. But this thing puts the little holes in so they don't poof up too much and cuts them up. But it is a big piece of plastic, which I'm kind of trying not to collect more plastic in my life. So we'll see about the cracker cutter. I'm not sure I need it. It was just kind of like, I didn't know that existed. Okay, it's time to wrap things up, which means let's do the giveaway. And I'll tell you what this week's giveaway is, all right? So I really appreciate all of your ideas of things that I could do with my nocturne. There were some great ones in there. I'm going with the hat. I might do a cowl to go with the hat because that stitch is so intriguing and ropey, and I think it's going to do great in this. I actually have a little idea, but I'm trying to keep that under wraps until I decide if I'm running with it or not, because you know me, sometimes I get ahead of myself. The winner for this skein of Nocturne is, I have it all pulled up here, is Tracey Parker. And I loved the idea that Tracey had. I didn't end up doing it, but it's an excellent idea and one that I wanted to do. She suggested holding this with a strand of like silk mohair or something like that to give it a halo. And I agree. I actually think a skein of this held with some silk mohair would make amazing mittens for next fall or winter. And so I've got that percolating up here, and I could almost see doing like a big long brioche yummy cuff and then having this big fuzzy warm mitten at the top. So I've got that. I need to write it down so I remember, but Tracey Parker, you're the winner, and thank you for that awesome idea. This week's giveaway is going to be do you see me deciding? I have two things that I'm like deciding between what it should be. And I think it's going to be the last farm stand sack kit. So Farm Stand Stack was Lola's Choice kit from last July. And these were kits that I couldn't add more of to the store. They used a button but made by my friend Melissa Jean, and she's taking a break with her shop and she's not making any more buttons. So I couldn't get more handmade buttons from her. So this is literally the last kit that I'm going to have. It's got a skein of Barocco Pima 100. It's got a button made by Melissa Jean. I believe it's got some jelly beans in it, but I think those jelly beans are from last June, so I'm gonna throw out those jelly beans and give you some other sweet treat because they might be a little old. And to win this kit, and the winner will be announced on the last log, leave a comment below telling me your favorite part of this log. What part where do you want me to dive deeper on things? What do you want to hear about from me? I'm having a very fun time talking to you about design inspiration, kind of like showing you where things are coming from and where they're going. And sometimes you might see they end up not going anywhere. But I want to hear from you what you're liking in these, because they're fun for me to do. They're a tiny bit of work to get together, and it's fun work. And I want to continue doing them, but make them interesting for you to watch. So leave that comment below. The next time I do a log, I will announce the winner at the end and give you your prompt for the next log. Thank you so much. Happy knitting, and see lots of you at Knit for Food this weekend.